I've been under 5 yards away on three distinct bears that I had to put down,
Wow.
like 3 steps, and they were still alive and they were still mobile.
Welcome to the Wild Dispatch.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Wild Dispatch. I'm Robin and I'm back with more skills and stories from the wild. We have another wild episode for you today. Ean Anderson, another member of the Anderson family, has blessed us with our presence on this podcast. Ean is a phenomenal outdoorsman. He is a really successful hunter, a bow hunter, a long-range rifle shooter, pistol hunter, you name it, he's pretty much tried it. So he has a bunch of incredible stories of his exploits. Being out in the boonies from a very young age, much like his siblings, he was out there getting up to mischief, learning a lot of lessons the way that we should out in the wild. He's also spent a lot of time fighting fires and working as an EMT, so he's got a lot of training in that as well. And what comes with the training and the experiences comes stories. So we got a good one for you today. Thank you again, Ean, for sharing your time with us today. Be sure to give him a follow on Instagram, Outdoor Ian, and that's Ian spelled E-A-N. I'll put a link in the show notes and you can find him there. Follow him and you'll see what he's up to. Right, that's quite enough from me for now. Here's Ian. We did this before. Sorry if it's tedious, man. Just protocols, it's like before flying, they have these things in place.
Don't worry, I've done quite a few jobs that you have to have a checklist.
Okay, good. Yeah, do you know the story behind that thing with flying, right? Like the whole importance of a checklist, like that massively reduced the number of errors that happen and crashes and stuff, right? It's a pretty amazing story. I was surprised to hear that before. Yeah, like the percentage goes down. I guess it's like people who are, I'm a pilot, I know what I'm doing. Everyone's fallible, right? Like as long as you have that system in place, then you're in a better situation.
Well, there's also two pilots, so maybe the other one thought that the other one put it like the landing gear down or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the other thing I didn't even think of, right? The landing gear.
No, he did it.
Welcome to the podcast, Ian.
Yeah, good to be here.
Thank you for your patience. I know we had a few technical issues there on both our ends. Thankfully, while you were running into town and figuring out your issues, I managed to sort out mine as well. So my hunting buddy is adamant that he doesn't have my cables that I've accused him of stealing. So
they're up on the mountain somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. Or they're just going to show up in some weird place in my backpack and I'm going to be like, oh, okay, right, my bad. Okay, so lots of things I want to talk to you today about. But I guess, first of all, what's going on there at the moment? Like, have you been doing any outdoorsy stuff, or is kind of the time of the year, is it kind of quiet? I guess turkey season's coming up. Has anything else been going on?
We have a spring turkey and a fall turkey season. So we get 2 seasons on the east side of the state. So I went out, took some kids out fall season, and little Tiker's got some turkeys.
Is that video that you sent me?
Yeah, a little 8-year-old, probably 60-pound kid, and then a 13-year-old kid, and so turkeys are pretty hard to harvest with a 20 gauge, and so I had to hold on the shotgun a little bit while it blasted him back, and then the other kid, he shot a 12 gauge sitting on his butt, and it blew him backwards a little bit. But yeah, it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I remember that video is amazing. It's amazing. I didn't actually realize that you were helping him by like supporting the gun, first of all. Yep. But the second kid is brilliant. Like he just gets blown fully backwards, man. Like
his feet flew up in the air.
Yeah, it's like a cartoon.
They had just passed hunter's education, and it was already the end of deer season, so they were begging me to take them out, and I said, let's go get some turkeys. So we went out and got a turkey for them.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's also a good animal to start with, right? Like, I don't know what it is about turkeys, but they're a good starter animal. I mean, they're tough to hunt, but
Oh yeah.
you seem to do a lot of that kind of thing. You're super generous with your time and
Yep.
knowledge. You share a lot of that with people around you. Where do you think that came from? Is that just built into you?
That came from my childhood where people would take me under their wing and take me out hunting. And then it's transitioned into my adulthood. I actually have harvested so many animals and hunted so much that I actually get more of an adrenaline rush when somebody else takes an animal. And it's amazing. Like it's their first animal and you get to relive your experience over through them.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
get to see the excitement. I mean, you shoot a 2 point and you're like, all right, well, work begins. But if they shoot a 2 point, you're as excited as they are, and you get to relive that first harvest over again through their experience. And yeah, they don't care if they get a big wall hanger. They don't care if they get a doe. I mean, I've seen kids shaking so much they can barely even stand up straight, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And then I had the kid that harvested turkey this year. He was so excited that he was like, hey, mom, I can start providing for the family and start like we don't have to buy meat from the store. And he was all jacked up that he was able to help the family. And I was just like, man, that's cool.
Oh, I love it. So I guess I want to ask you a little bit about what you said already growing up in nature. And I've heard a few of these little stories before with your dad and your brother John as well. But I always love to hear a slightly different perspective. So you grew up in Washington, right? That's where
Yep.
you are now. Is that right?
Yeah. Basin Olympic National Park is where we grew up. If you went on our back door, you would go through timberland, then you'd hit the Olympic National Park, and then you'd go another 50, 60 miles through the Olympic National Park before you hit the Strait of Juan de Fuca.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I bet you got up to mischief from the sounds of things. You're like the second oldest, is that right? If my
second oldest.
intel goes. So what was that like then? You kind of like, were you all given the same freedoms or?
Yes. My dad, he was very, very standoffish, I guess. If you were to raise a child and you want to like just child-proof a whole entire house, nope, that was not my dad. He's like, yeah,
Okay.
You want to do that? Go ahead. See how it feels. You won't do that again. So, but he wouldn't do us like jumping out of a top of a tree. He's like, hey, Dad, can I parachute out with a piece of plywood? He'd be like, no, probably shouldn't do that. But like he was very, I guess, very open in us being able to do things. And I mean, we're still alive. I mean,
yeah.
So I mean, he let us fall and pick ourselves back up rather than not letting a child fall and not being able to have the experience of picking themselves back up.
Yeah.
You can
I guess,
theorize it that way.
Yeah, that's pretty important, I guess, in terms of building your own identity, right? Like learning those things. I was lucky enough to have that kind of experience myself, not nearly as rugged or wild as you growing up, but definitely there was space for me to make mistakes.
Oh yeah, we made a lot of them, but you learn by them.
Any that spring to mind?
Like I went out one time, I think I was out like coyote hunting or on a little trap line or something like that. And like, it was an hour after dark and my parents were then getting kind of worried. And I was just hiking back in the dark and I must have been 12, 13, something like that. And I was like 3 miles from home out in the middle of the dark and I could see at night. I didn't really care around too many flashlights. And I was just hiking back and they were like, where the heck were you? I was like, I don't know. I got dark and hiked back. And I don't think they were too worried just because we'd been out in that type of environment. I mean, we took hikes through the Olympic National Park with the scouting every single year. I've been on every single trail in the Olympic National Park. I didn't get into too much mischief. I mean, we didn't have a lot of I had 2 friends growing up in a graduate. I always tell people I was the second smartest kid in my class, but there were only 5 of us. So, yeah. And so we didn't have a lot of friends that were close. I had a friend that lived 15 miles away and a friend that lived 10 miles away. So it wasn't like your normal kids out in I guess in neighborhood. You didn't have any neighborhood kids. I mean, it was a mile to
yeah.
the nearest house. So
Just had your siblings, I guess.
we just had our siblings, and when we retired with our siblings, we would just run off by ourselves, and we could do that. Didn't get into
Yeah.
too much mischief. We were always working. I don't think we had time to get into mischief too much.
What kind of jobs were you doing? I guess you were on a like a farm steady kind of environment, right?
Yeah, our dad did
Homestead.
work us. I mean, I remember working like 6, 7 years old, working for like 4 hours, getting half an hour break, and then working another 4 hours, and we could do whatever we wanted. And like that was growing up. It was like working as a job. And
Yeah.
on Sundays we couldn't do really too much, so we just go out and go to church, do a few odds and ends. But Saturday was our day to go do something, so we would go out and take our 22s. And I mean, I was probably 6, running around out in the woods with a 22, and I mean, nothing bad ever happened. Like, people would be driving around, you see a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old walk around the woods with a 22, and nobody cared. Like, it was just
Yeah.
the way of growing up.
Yeah, I guess it's just different, right?
Yeah.
Did you if I remember correctly, I think your dad had a strict limited ammunition policy, right?
Yeah.
Did that ever, I mean, did you have like 1 or 2 bullets for your 22 and that was all you were allowed to have for the day?
They were all bolt action,
Okay.
so you couldn't like waste ammo. You had one shot, and you either had it, and we ate most of the animals that we harvested. I mean, rabbits and
Yeah.
grouse, and I mean, we did get into Tweety birds when we were younger, but growing up, I know that wasn't as ethical, but I wasn't thinking that back then. I was just learning to be a predator and a prey. Hunting, you have to have the mind of a predator, and you also have to think like a prey. So you have to have the mindset
Yes.
of how does the prey think to be able to hunt them as a predator. So you have to think like a predator, but act like a prey to be able to understand. It's like understanding your thing you're hunting and how they, I guess, get away from predators and how predators would hunt them, and
Yeah.
how the prey thinks, and put yourself in both shoes and be able to hunt better out there and understand your animal you're after.
It's a good point. I don't know if I thought about it too much before like that. I very much think like the predator. Maybe sometimes I have that kind of mindset, but how can you think of kind of situations when you learned that? Did you teach yourself that, or was that something that was shared with you?
Well, when you walk around in parks and there's deer walking around, you could be 10 feet away and they don't really care. You get out in the wild, that
Yes.
same deer out in the wild, it even could be specifically the same deer out in the wild away from a park, they will be very, very leery of you, because
Yes.
it's all body language. It's all, I guess, a chemical smell, or maybe how you look at them. Like even interaction between people, you could tell if a person's looking at you as a predator or a prey, and just your body language and all that kind of stuff. So if you understand, just say you're out hunting, you get spooked by an animal. If you act like just a normal person walking in a park, they may not spook as fast as if you're crunched down, you got eyes directly forward at them, you're acting like a predator. So sometimes
Yeah.
I've spooked animals, and then I just, oh well, I'm spooked, and then I just start walking around like somebody at a park, and it'll calm them down, and then you walk off and you come back at them from a different
Yeah.
direction, and you can rehunt them. It's kind of that theory.
Yeah. I've experienced exactly that before as well, where it's so much like however you want to determine it, body language, whatever you're putting out, like energy wise, it is interesting. It makes a huge difference. Like just being super casual, like, oh, I don't really care what happens.
Mhm.
Like you're not interested. You're not giving that focus. You're not pouring that attention on an animal, because they really do feel that, don't they?
Oh, they do.
Yeah. That's so curious, because I think I just tried that one time when I was lucky enough I get to go over to South Africa a bit, and
Mhm.
because I have family over there, and there's these animals that I spent years trying to hunt, and they're so flighty, really crazy reactions. I mean, they're insane. Like these little kind of antelope that are tiny things.
Mhm.
Like you can shoot an arrow and they won't be there because the
Oh, yeah.
reactions are so quick.
Yep.
But I've had it before. Like one time I think I managed to stalk within like 6 yards of one, and it was because I just walked. I
Yep.
just like, I just was super casual, kind of walking around, and I don't think it saw me, but there was definitely like that. If it, whether, I don't know if there was the energy that I was putting out, but it was like super relaxed and not really worrying too much about it. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, I wish it was always that easy.
Yeah. They can
Yeah.
also hear by sound. Like predators also make very little sound, where some person walking around the woods that doesn't know what they're doing makes a ton of sound. So I bet you it
Yeah.
knew you were there, even if it couldn't see or smell you, because animals
Yeah.
know the footprints of a human. We're bipedal, so we have 2 feet.
Yes.
We don't have four. Most animals out there walk on four. So as they're walking, they can hear that 4-footstep fall instead of 2-footstep fall.
Yes. Yeah, that's interesting, right? Like there is an audio, and I guess, yeah, that's something I kind of learned to do is sort of break up the way I walk so that it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
just sound like, like you said, like a bipedal
Yep.
human walking along. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I
humans
asked,
are just
go on.
one more thing on that. Humans are the only thing in nature, other than an animal scared or an animal migrate, that has a point A and a point B to get to that day. Animals just meander. And so
Yeah.
if you hear something crashing through the woods, it's either being spooked or in danger or heading out, or it's a human. Because humans,
Yes.
we have a destination, where animals, they have food, water, shelter, pretty much all things around them, unless they're spooked. So it's how you even move through the woods on animals can detect what you are and what you're up to and how you are and what you're, I guess, what you're going to do.
Yeah, what your agenda is.
Yep.
That's interesting. And it's actually funny. I think before I got into hunting, which was maybe, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, tops, maybe less.
Mm-hmm.
There was a mindset to get into. It felt very unnatural to me, coming from like a lot of sports and like trying to do athletic performance and reach the fastest time, the best, the fastest, strongest, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was really hard for me to go for a walk slowly. Like the mindset of just being like, oh, I'm not maintaining a certain pace or a certain power on my bike. That was a really hard switch in my brain, because now when I go for a walk in the woods, it's like, oh, I'm just meandering about, and it's really nice to just look around, see what's going on, notice stuff. Usually it's like see a mushroom on the ground, get distracted by that. But that slow meandering, you're right, is definitely the moment when you see things, right? Because you just give yourself the time to actually observe and be there. Yeah, that's so curious.
Yeah.
I have a note here. I asked your dad for some tips of things to ask about.
Yeah.
He said Boys Week.
Yep.
So tell me about Boys Week.
So Boys Week, during the summer when we're off school, my dad would take a week off of work and we would go wherever we wanted. Like, all right, guys, let's just go for a drive. And it would be Boys Week, and we'd go out and camp and fish, whatever we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so we would go to, remember going to, Sisters, Oregon, and collecting, what did we go down there get? Quartz. We went and got obsidian. We went to Montana a few times. We would just start driving.
Wow.
And if we saw a cool place that we want to go to, I mean, that's back before internet. You couldn't like just Google things. And so you'd have a road map, or we'd go to, like we had one Boys Week that we just went to old like mining towns. And we would just go to these old mining towns and like just have fun. It was just dad and the boys, and we would just go out, and it was a week long of just dad experience with the boys and teaching like they used to do back when.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So you went to Montana, you said. That's a long way from Washington, man. That's long drive.
Yeah.
In a week. Yeah, you got to be moving.
Yeah, so we drove over there for like a day and a half, and then got there and then just spent time. I remember one time my dad caught this massive fish, and then I don't know what happened. Somebody let it go, or accidentally like dropped it and let it go. It was a massive fish. And it was just, in this little tiny pond. I mean, this had to have been a 24-inch trout. And I'm not joking the size. And so like my dad was really bummed out. And so I think the next time I don't remember who actually let it go. The next time they caught a fish, he just grabbed the fish and threw it back in the water and said, there, See how it feels? I still remember that.
Oh, how did they react? I imagine there could have been some tears at that moment.
Well, let the punishment fit the crime. If Dad caught this fish and somebody else let it go, the moment that he caught a fish, Dad's going to let it go. So you can kind of understand the feeling. I don't think it was that big of a fish. I mean, it was a way smaller fish, but for a little kid catching a fish. But that's just the way it was. It was hard love, and that's the way I grew up, and that's the way I tried to raise my kids.
Yeah, justice. You made me think of something that happened to me when I was younger. So I spent a lot of time sailing around. My parents, particularly my dad, but my mum as well, they're both like obsessive ocean sailors. So they've always bought cheap boats and done them up and then gone sailing around. But that was kind of like summer holidays for me was spent on a boat, usually going places. But I really remember, I think when I went to visit them at some point in Scotland, which is where they live now. But we were fishing and I pulled in a fish. Usually we always have like a line over the back of the boat.
Yep.
And I'd caught a fish. I can't remember what it was. I feel like it was bigger than a mackerel. It was a decent sized fish. And I think my dad like grabbed the fish, quickly like processed it all and everything. And then there was this moment where he had the fish and it was all dirty and slimy, right? But he gutted it and everything, but it had no head on. And he took it and I could see his brain working. He like leaned over the side of the boat as we're going along at like 5-6 miles an hour, dips his hand in the ocean to wash it off, lifts his hand out, and there's no fish there anymore. Obviously, because you can't try and dip a slippery fish in the ocean as you're traveling along. I couldn't believe he did that. I had like higher expectations of my father than that, but so I owe him. I need to get him back next time we go fishing together.
Yeah, it might have been a wahoo or a mahi-mahi, or do you remember what color it was?
Yeah, it might have been actually. I think it could have been because I do think we were over in the Pacific at some point. I think it might have been, it could have been a mahi-mahi. I don't remember, but it was a decent fish and that was a silly move. So I didn't let him live that down for a while, but yeah, I think you're right. The punishment is going to fit the crime at some point. I look forward to that.
Yep.
So you also said about Boy Scouts. I love to hear about people growing up and the things that kind of form who they are. And you mentioned something when we chatted before about Boy Scouts, that whole experience, and then kind of like the discovery of video games as well.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about that.
So when I was growing up, we were in a church that really did Boy Scouts a lot, and it's since changed its name. But so we went through Boy Scouts, and my dad was a Scoutmaster, and I became a life rank. I didn't make it to Eagle Scout because of all they're called citizenships, where you have to like write your, I guess, your Congress people, and you can write your governor and all that kind of stuff. And that wasn't just me. I mean, I was hands-on. I got all the merit badges that I could. But this citizenship was just like, why do I want to write a bunch of people? They're not even going to write me back. So I didn't make Eagle Scout. And so I made life rank. And so we used to go to jamborees. There were Boy Scout jamborees every single year. And we were poor. I mean, we grew up really, really poor. We hunted just for food, not for like, hey, I want to have a T-bone steak on the weekend or something like that. We hunted actually for food and raised a garden because we were really poor. And so we would go to these jamborees, and I don't think my dad ever knows this story, but it rings true about once a month. I'll remember it, and that's why I'm not a really fan of video games, stuff like that. But we were at Boy Scouts, this jamboree, and my dad would be the chef and cook. And so it was about halfway through the Boy Scout jamboree, and we would go do merit badges and have meetings and all this kind of stuff and just be Boy Scouts. And so this is when video games first came out, and it was a video game called Zelda. And I would say I got hooked right off the bat, and I wanted to play it all the time. And on breaks, I would want to play it. And after we do our merit badges, and it got to the point within like a day or two that I didn't want to do anything to do with the Boy Scouts. I wanted to play the video game. And so I remember arguing with my parents, and they were like, you need to go do your Boy Scout stuff. Nope, I want to play these video games. And so that was only like a day or two, and like Zelda was a big thing then. And at that point, I realized that within a day or two, I was addicted to it, and I didn't want to do anything else. And I apologize to my dad. It's been in the back of my mind when I see people playing video games and get addicted to it, that it is very addicting, and I don't want it anywhere in my house. So, yeah, I still remember that from a very young age. I don't know how old I was, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there, but that really affected me over my life about not being in video games at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember a similar kind of experience myself. I don't think it was Zelda that I was playing, but definitely going over to friends' houses and them having, first of all, like a TV in their room, which was pretty wild to me. Like that, I mean, we only had one TV in the whole house, so
Yeah.
and then having like video games there or constantly, that was pretty mind blowing to me. I mean, I grew up in a little bit more of an urban environment, but yeah, and it's crazy how that thing can just draw you in, right? It sucks your brain in, and I think also maybe it's not the same for everyone, because there's quite a lot of people I know who play video games and they don't get quite as, I don't know what the word is, like totally obsessed or overstimulated by it. But it seems like you and I are maybe the same in that way, that you can't turn your brain off from it. And very quickly, it's just like, you got to have that candy, right? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, I mean, then I guess, does that translate through to social media now and phones, smartphones, all that kind of stuff? I mean, like, we're talking through a smartphone right now, so I guess you've got one.
I have the most expensive, stupid electronic piece of equipment I've ever owned. I did get on social media a little bit, and then once I found myself doing it too much, I deleted it all. And then when I did get back on it, like, I do have a social media account, but the only access I have to it is where I can comment on things, see things, but I can't actually surf things.
Okay.
So I don't get addicted. And I do that is, if you don't have that, you won't be tempted to do that. I have a TV at my house, but it's not connected to anything. If we want to watch, like, I only watch like a few shows, if at all, but our internet's, as you can see, is so bad that usually when we try and watch it, it just crashes and we go, okay, well, that's why we live out where we live, is we don't have the access to be able to get into it.
Yeah.
And I just don't, I don't want to see people do things. My whole ideology is, I don't want to watch somebody do something that I would want to do. I'm just going to go do it. And I'm really bad about videotaping. So I do have, my wife has a social media account, and I do have mine through hers, and then I'll do some things, and like, she'll make up the video, and I'll approve it and maybe add a few more things, and then she'll post it on my social media account. But actually, me having social media on my phone, nope, I won't do it. Me having a TV that can watch in the house, nope, I won't do it.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. It sounds like basically your wife has taken the role of like PR person for your for your adventures, which sounds ideal. I wish my wife would do that.
Yeah, I don't do anything. Like, I got too much work to do. I'm busy all the time, so I don't really have time for doing that.
So tell me what kind of work you do, because I remember when we spoke before, you do quite a few different things, right?
Yeah, so I work for a Department of Transportation here in Washington State, and I do freeway maintenance and snow plowing, driving in the wintertime. But we haven't had much snow this year, so mostly I've been putting down a little bit of traction material on the road so that people don't slip and slide off. I also run a business. It's I call it firewizing, and but you go in and you clean land up to where the land doesn't grow up, and then the brush gets so choked up that it just creates a massive forest fire. So my business, I have a tractor and some chippers and mowers and chainsaws, and the ability to go into a place and clean it as if a fire went through there, a natural fire, return all the chips back to the land. And you do it in such a way that it makes the land healthy, and it provides, I guess, I don't burn it too much. I mean, during really, really wet times, I can burn a little bit. Mostly I just throw it through a chipper and I chip all the material back onto the ground.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Indians, for a lot of years, they burn an area off. And if you go, I love old growth forests, but there's nothing to eat really underneath them. As in for deer and animals, stuff like that. And there are a few animals that do live in the old growth forest. Most of them are birds. But there's really nothing to eat underneath the ground, underneath an old growth forest.
It's interesting because there is a forest near me. It's Jackson State Demonstration Forest, I think it's called. And it's a lot of redwoods, and it's quiet. It's a quiet forest. Maybe that's just because I'm plodding through there too noisy, but I don't think that's the case. It's really hard to find animals there. Occasionally there'll be a bear or like the occasional turkey, but it's super quiet there. And I think there just isn't that much feed around, right?
No.
What is it that got you into that kind of fire clearing role, like that job that you created for yourself? It's a business that you owned, right?
Yeah. I was a wildland firefighter for a lot of years. I was an EMT, EMT basic, EMT IV technician, EMT advanced, just under like a paramedic. I was also a wildland firefighter and a regular firefighter. I was in search and rescue, but doing wildland firefighting, I would go to fires after they start and try and fight them to put them out. And it seems like we were post-active instead of pre-active.
Yes.
And so we would go and like these fires would just get raging and take out hundreds of homes on these big major wildfires. And so I was like, well, what am I doing to prevent these other than just I'd go there afterwards and put them out. And so I started a business that goes in and clears up people's land. You space the trees out, you take out the non-indigenous trees, you leave the regular trees, you trim them up about 10 feet, and you take out all the underbrush that's too much, that is just a choked up mess. Kind of the same theory as if a fire was to come through every 10 or 12 years and clean it out. You clean it out to those specs, and then the forest gets healthy. And you mechanically do it. And I understand the reasoning that fire is better, but fire also kills a lot of things, and you got homes out there. So if you can go in there with equipment and clean it out, and yes, you're burning fuel and you are using machinery out in the wood, but it's a less footprint for cleaning up that land rather than fires. So I've got a lot of people around here that I clean land for, and I go in there and space the trees out and take out non-indigenous species that aren't supposed to be here, and make the ground healthy, and then also help the landowner too. So I built that business.
That's great. What kind of non-indigenous trees are the most common offenders that you have to deal with often?
Pine here, bad.
Okay.
They literally, so the pine tree, it's really brushy. It sucks up a lot of water. The needles and the tree kind of acidifies the ground. It doesn't let anything grow other than what I call just a little bit of grass. And it just makes when the pine needles fall off, they make an almost a barrier to the ground for things to grow through. And it's taken out everything here. And it's really a pine that you can't really use for other than chipping. It doesn't really do good for lumber because it rots out real fast. So you can't sell the firewood really. I have to give it away. I'll just give it away to people. And you can't burn the pine in your wood stove because of the creosote. Yeah. So it's just for, I guess, campfires, and not a lot of people can use like 10 cords of campfire wood. So I give it away.
I had no idea that that's actually not native to the area that you're in. So wait, what kind of pine do you mean?
I can't remember the exact term name for it.
Oh, okay. No worries.
I mean, we do have lodgepole pine around here.
Okay.
But it gets choked out by these other pines. They're a longer ponderosa pine, maybe. There's like 5 different kinds of pine around here. It might be a ponderosa pine.
Where I am, there's a lot of like bull pines and things like that. And I happen to love them just because the porcini grow under them a lot. But I'm curious. I would have just assumed that in this area, pine is kind of one of the, well, I guess there's a few different species, aren't there? But one of the ones that is actually native to here, but it's interesting to hear that it's not. I wanted to ask you about being an EMT, volunteer firefighter. I bet you've had some pretty wild experiences doing that? I mean, anything that you're comfortable to share, but I'm sure you've got some stories.
Back in my fire department, I started at 16 years old. We were in a very, very small department. This is way back before all the rules and regulations that are now. So I started with the fire department at 16. My first call out was to my neighbor. She was rolled over and ejected, and the truck landed on top of her, and we couldn't find her forever. And finally, I looked down, and just underneath the frame was some fingers sticking out. And so we lifted the car onto her, and we went ahead and put her in the body bag, and it didn't affect me. I don't know why it didn't affect one of the EMTs there, but I was like, wow, it didn't affect me, and I can actually help people out. So I started doing the fire department. And by the time I was 19, I was living at a fire station. I was running the fire station, became a EMT basic and an EMT IV technician where I can put in IVs, and then it became an EMT advanced and just started doing that. I was on in a little town called Shelton. We had a big mill fire, and I was the first in engine, and it had I want to say 2 million board feet of lumber that went up. We had I think we put 1.6 million gallons of water on this fire. We were shooting our straight streams from our deck guns at it, and it was almost evaporating before it hit the seat of the fire. And when I first got there, I laid hose in, and so you give a scene size up when you get there, whether you have a wood frame or a metal structure or a concrete structure, and if you need any extra people. And my scene size up was, we got a mill on fire. Send me everybody you can get. Yeah. That was my size up. And we had a foam truck from Seattle come down. We had another truck from Tacoma come down. I want to say we had 130 firefighters on that, when 16 different districts. And I fought that thing, I think, for 16 hours.
Wow. I'm going to interrupt our normal programming for just a second to invite you to do me a favor. If you're enjoying the podcast, then please make sure you remember to give us a subscribe or a follow, whatever platform you are listening on. And if you get a chance, it would be amazing once you're done listening to hop over to give us a 5-star review. A 5-star review, maybe with a little bit of writing, is always a fantastic way to push us up in the algorithms, so people who enjoy wild kind of content like the stuff we produce will find us quicker. That way I can get hold of more amazing guests like Ian today. Right, back to the podcast.
Yeah, it started at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't get off the fire till noon the next day. And it was a big one.
It sounds like also logistically, it must be so hard. I guess you've got everyone's kind of on standby and ready to go, but supplying everyone with food, water, whatever. I mean, it's going to be hot work, right? You're running around.
Yeah.
Is dehydration an issue when you're doing that kind of thing?
Yeah. So back then the bottles were only half an hour. You'd only get 15 minutes out of them. You got to worry about egress and ingress, how many fire trucks you're going to get in there, whether how many people you can put in there, way the wind's going, what the way will change. So if you're fighting a fire at this angle and the wind's going perpendicular or going 90 degrees to you, what's it going to be in the next 3 hours? Is the wind going to shift, and now all that smoke is coming right over you? You have to pull all your stuff. And if you have to get out of there real quickly, if something happens, it's a logistic nightmare on that big of a fire. You have let's just say 16 engines on the scene, and you're all flowing water, and there's hoses going everywhere, and it is a logistics nightmare.
Yeah, it sounds it, man.
Yeah, firefighting, when you're in your firefighting suit, you could be up over 150 pounds of gear, and then it gets wet, so you're almost like wearing 150 pounds worth of equipment, and it's made to keep heat out, but it also keeps heat in. And so when you're really working, how is the mechanics of your body to cool down? You sweat, right?
Yeah.
How can you sweat into a thermal insulated suit that doesn't allow heat in or heat out? It's a really tough job.
Yeah, man. So, and that's just something you've got to deal with. Just deal with being super hot from cooking from the inside out as well. Man, I never really realized there's a double whammy going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild, dude. Have you had any close calls or situations? You said things can change on a dime, like the wind changing or...
Let's crawl through a house one time. and I could see the fire in front of me, but what I didn't know was that the fire got underneath and behind me. And we were in a small department. We didn't have the teams that can go out and do this and do that and do that. A lot has changed in 20 years. Like, I mean, going back through the fire department, I was like, wow, that's changed, that changed. So I was on the initial attack, and I was the hose man. I was going through, and I didn't know what the fire got underneath me. And while, I mean, in mobile homes and stuff like that, they go up really fast. And so I was going down the hallway, and the floor fell out in front of me, and I went down into the flames, and all I did was open her up and put it on fog pattern, pretty much just fog up the whole area, and then was able to climb back out and get back out of the fire. But yeah, I've had a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of close calls, because it's grown over the years of fire departments were killing firefighters trying to put fires out to save structures or save businesses, and we finally was like, it's not worth it. So a lot of times now we don't go in if it's questionable. It's changed a lot.
I mean, there's got to be some amazing emotionally charged moments, although it sounds like from some of your stuff working as an EMT that you're able to remain relatively detached. But I bet you must have had some pretty powerful moments rescuing people. They must be so grateful at moments when they're perhaps the most scared they've ever been in their life.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a hero, but I've done CPR, brought people back, saved people out of extricated cars. I haven't technically found a person in a burning building and dragged them out, just because we lived in areas that the response time was a long time. And the smoke would have got them already. One thing I did get an award for. We got an MBA rollover, and we call it the mechanism of injury. Nowadays, cars you can have them majorly screwed up, and they crush in a way that won't hurt the person. They're pretty cool. But the mechanism was so great, and we were like, no, he was up walking around all fine, and we're like, no, that car is super messed up, dude. We would like to backboard you and get you on a stretcher and put a seat collar on you and get you strapped down and take you to the hospital. He's like, no, I'm fine. And we were like, no, just how bad that car is. There was so much energy that went through that car. And so we finally convinced him he had a broken neck. And the doctor said that if he would have twisted his neck up slightly, even one way or the other, the wrong way, it would have killed him.
Wow.
He had a bunch of bone shards and a crushed vertebrae. And some people's adrenaline are going so fast and they don't feel pain right away. And so we got an award.
That's wild, man. I guess like your spinal cord is exposed at that point. It's like super vulnerable. Maybe that's something that's going on there. Is that what the issue was?
Your C1, 2, and 3 is where all your breathing comes out. Like if you go off your C1, 2, and 3, and your cervical spine runs. Like the further you go down, if you shatter a vertebrae, let's just say in your lower back, it's not as bad as if you break it in your cervical spine. Like everything below that break can be shut off. So if you shut off the areas like your breathing, it's kind of important.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious, with everything that's happened with fires kind of getting more and more intense, raging harder and harder, and they're kind of becoming these ultra fires. And in Washington too, right? Like it's been happening a lot over the West. I was wondering if you had a take on what's going on there. And I'm not trying to like politicize in any capacity. I'm just trying to sort of be informed, really. Like, what do you think has happened, or why these things are happening? I mean, I can think of a couple of reasons potentially, but I'd love to get your take.
The problem is we're not letting fires burn. That's the big problem. So if brush does come up and choke up everything, and then that is a prime place for a fire to go through, it will go through, and it won't stop until it gets to, let's just say, a major boundary. It has to run out of fuel to stop. So right now we go in there as soon as a forest fire starts, we get in there and we put it out. And we get in there and put them out, and we get in and put them out. And then we're also moving further out away from, towns. We're moving into areas that are very, very choked up, and everybody's super scared of fires, but they're not cleaning their land out. And that's why you get these super massive forest fires, because every single season growth starts, and it dies. And then it builds up as it's a combustible layer. And then the next year it grows up again and it's not taken out. And then the next year it grows up again. And after 10 or 20 years of not a forest fire cleaning out that every once in a while, then it builds up so much that your combustible amount is massive. And then when they go off, you can't stop them.
Okay. And then I guess there's I forget what the term is now, but it's like, is it ladder or something to do with
Ladder
ladders?
fuels is what they're called.
Ladder fuel, that's what it is. So then it's actually enough energy to start the big stuff on fire, like the bigger trees and things that would actually probably just be fine if a fire rips through there. It just burns all the growth below it.
Yeah, so that's why I trim trees up 10 feet, and then you take out the trees that are close together. So if it does go up, one tree doesn't jump to another tree. And if you take out the ladder fuels, it can't go to the crown. It's called crowning.
Sorry, explain that again. I want to make sure I understand properly.
So ladder fuels are the fuels that are high enough off the ground to catch the next rung on fire. And then it'll catch the next rung on fire and catch the next rung on fire. So if you take out, let's just say you have a ladder and you take out the first 5 rungs, it's hard to climb a ladder. And that's why they're called ladder fuels. So if you have the bottom rung and then you don't have rungs for like 8 feet, you're not going to be able to get to the top of that ladder. And they're ladder fuels. So if you take out the fuel between the ground and the top of the tree, and you could actually take a tree and leave 60% of the crown and take out 40% on almost any height tree. I would say on your smaller, really, really small trees, you don't want to do that. But if you could take a tree, it's actually healthy for it to limit 40% of its height up and leave 60% of the top.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yep.
So I've lots of questions about hunting because I've heard from a couple of different places now that you are an excellent hunter.
One of the things I'm the best at.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I guess it's something you've been practicing your whole life pretty much. So it seems like when we spoke before, there's definitely been a bit of a progression in terms of hunting. And correct me if this is wrong, but it's kind of like you started with rifle hunting, then kind of flintlock hunting, and then went into like long range hunting and I think pistol hunting. Is that right? You did some of that too, or you still do that?
I've done all of them. When I wouldn't say master because it takes years and years and years to master, but when I get to be pretty good, it almost gets to be like, not boring, but it gets to be like, okay, well, I can do that and that's easy. I want to do something harder. So when I was a little kid, I had my little fiberglass bow and I would shoot that, but I wouldn't say that was hunting. That was just shooting small little things. And every once in a while I would get a chicken or a rabbit or something like that. We'd let a chicken go and go hunt it for lunch. And so I got into rifle hunting at like maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old. My dad was having us shooting BB guns and they were shooting 22s. And my first deer I was taken, I was 8 years old. I shot it with a 50 caliber muzzleloader and got it over by where we lived at, and it ended up being a small spike. We thought it was a doe. It was with a muzzleloader with a flintlock. You can shoot either or. It was any deer. And so then I got into rifle hunting. I hunted for a long time with a little 308 and took a lot of deer, elk, and bear with that. And then I started getting into about the 14 or 15. I met a buddy, and he was big into reloading, and so then it just went from there. I started getting into, all right, well, I want to get long range because that was like pushing myself. Well, I'm good out to 300 yards with my little 308. I want to get out further than that. So I bought I think at 18, 19 years old, I bought a Remington 700 Sendero and 7mm Ultra Mag. I went straight to the top. Let's go to the biggest, flattest, powerfulest gun I can get. And it's based on the 404 Jeffries case, and it shoots a 284 caliber bullet, 7mm. And it was a screamer. Had a lot of recoil, but it got to where I could shoot. My buddy witnessed me shoot a 2.5 inch group at 500 yards with that thing.
Wow.
And
that's wild.
Yeah. And then from there, I got to where I could shoot really, really long range. I took an antelope like 3 years ago on camera at 1,062 yards. And it got to where it was, if I could see it, I could harvest it. And so between that time, I went archery hunting. So I went to a compound and got to a compound and started doing really well with that. And then I went recurve. You know what? I want to go recurve now. So I've been hunting the last couple of years with a recurve.
Okay, okay, I want to dip back to a bunch of these things that you've just told me about, but how did you find the transition from compound to recurve? Because that's something I'm just starting now, and it's a bit daunting, I've got to say.
So I shot a lot of recurve when I was a little boy, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I shot a lot of recurve, all instinctual. And so going to compound, it was like harder from recurve to going to compound because you have all these things on there. You have these sights, and you got this peep sight, and then you have this bubble level, and then you have like this 30, 40, 50, 60 yard pin, and like all these pins. And then like down in Texas, we were able to put a 4-power magnifying glass on the front of our sights, and it was like shooting through a scope. And
wow,
like it was just crazy. And it finally got to where, I mean, archery shots at 60 yards, I could hit a paper plate, and it just got to be, but it was super expensive. I mean, you're talking a full setup, $1,500 for a bow, and you can shoot what, 50, 60 yards. You get a $1,500 rifle, and you can shoot 1,000 yards if you practice. So I was thinking, going, well, that's really expensive. And so it wasn't too hard to transition. You just had to more of a follow through. You had to use your sights. You had to level the boat up. Leveling the bow was a little hard because I was shot instinctual, and I'd camp the bow a little bit to help keep it on the string. So I'd always catch myself trying to camp the archery. And so then when I bought a bubble level I guess, sight.
That's definitely a thing, isn't it?
It helped.
I'm curious though. I've shot a little bit with a buddy who does some long range shooting, and he recommended that I put a bubble on my scope of my rifle. And I'm wondering, is that something, when you're getting out long range, that makes a difference as well, right? Like every little
massively.
thing, every little detail.
If you camp the scope, your bore is not directly above your crosshairs.
Yeah.
And so just take for the listeners out there, take a rifle scope and put it on the target, and then just camp the rifle a little bit. Your crosshairs will move laterally.
Yeah.
And then if it's canted, then you have to bring your crosshairs back to the target, which means then your barrel now is moving left or right. So I shoot almost all my guns, I shoot bubble levels. Some of them I have flip out bubble levels. Some of them are mounted on top of the scope. Some of them are mounted below the scope. Some of them go off the Picatinny rail. But bubble levels, if you're shooting beyond, I'd say 400 yards, and you want to be super accurate, shoot with a bubble level.
Yeah. Okay, good. Glad to hear that that's confirmed. I did the right thing. I got that on mine too. Although most of my shots, to be honest, with a rifle end up being way closer than that. Being often hunting here in the redwoods, and it's thick. You get an opportunity and it's like 60, 70 yards. I'm like, I could have done this with a bow. Yeah. I guess that's the way it goes. So I guess the question I was going to ask you, tell me about that. Okay, one question I'm curious about. Were you with your brother John when you did that long range shot?
Yes, I was. He was videotaping.
Yeah, I watched the video.
You probably recognize the voice.
I recognize that voice.
Yeah.
And also then I figured it's an antelope, and that's kind of his area, right? That's where he is. So, okay, that's cool. The other thing I wanted to ask you though is, tell me about, I think the first big game animal you took was with a flintlock. Is that right? You said the deer. Tell me that story. What was going on there?
So we were just out hunting and driving around, and we saw this, what we thought was a doe. And so my dad jumped out and gave me a 50 caliber muzzleloader when I maybe weighed 70 pounds. And like, it was a round ball, and it was like, I think it was 100 grains of powder. It was probably black powder too, so it's probably not as explosive as the Buckhorn 209 or the Pyrodex 777. But yeah, when that muzzleloader went off, both me and the deer hit the ground at the same time. I was the only one that got back up though.
Yeah, I bet. So that must have been a powerful moment, well, literally, but also afterwards, after the smoke has cleared and seeing that you were successful. Did you, if you were relatively close to the truck, it wasn't too much of a pack out, you managed to, but you could drag
it was right off the road. I think it was can't remember if it was we looked down dirt road and seen it and it stepped off the bushes. Well, there wasn't really bushes, it was kind of clearing. But then we walked to the edge of the road and got off the road, and I don't remember how far the shot was. I mean, it looked far for me, but thinking back now, it might have been 30, 40 yards.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, it was a long time ago.
Did your dad ever make you do any of the kind of like first buck ceremony kind of things? Over in South Africa, they often do this thing. I think they call it blooding. It's like the first antelope you shoot.
You had to drink
Did you
the
have
blood?
any of that? Oh, is that what you had to do?
Yeah.
Nice. With pride, I'm guessing.
Put the blood underneath the eyeballs, and you drink a little bit of blood, and just it's to honor the animal. I've done it with people before.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that do want to do it. Yeah, we do the blooding. You drink the animal's blood.
Wow. Okay.
And they'll be like, I don't know if I want to do that. And I'll be like, watch, see, it's not that bad. You try it. It's kind of irony tasting. It's actually really good for you. People make blood sausage, and blood has a bunch of good stuff in it. It's not dangerous.
So it seems like I'm drawing a lot of parallels between you and me in the fact that you always want to make it harder, and I'm the same as well. It's like as soon as something starts feeling like it's almost not quite getting easy, but like I feel like I'm getting the hang of this, I'm like, how can I make this harder? I'm guessing that gets to you to a point then when you're trying to stalk animals and you have to get closer and closer, and you have more and more primitive technology. There comes a point where like a balance between ethics and the style of hunting, there's an overlap there, right? Because I think before you've told me that ethics is a really important thing for you in making a good shot and respecting the animal.
Yep.
Do you find that there is a friction there, and how do you find that balance?
So ethics in hunting has evolved. And how I mean that is, I mean, back when you had flintlocks, was it ethical to take a 200-yard shot with a flintlock with a smoothbore, like a 69 caliber musket back 200 years ago or 150 years ago? No, it was not ethical. If you have a super flat shooting, high accurate rifle, taking a 200-yard shot is ethical. And then you have to go by somebody's, I guess, how well they shoot. How much are they invested in shooting? When I tell people that I took a 1,062-yard shot on a pronghorn, and they tell me, well, that's unethical. I ask them, how many barrels have you worn out? Not as in a cocky way. I just ask them, how often do you shoot? Well, I shoot a box of shells a year. I say, I probably shoot 200 to 300 rounds a year before season, and when I'm working loads up. And like I've got almost $11,000 into my long range rifle, and I built the rounds specifically for the rifle, and they'll shoot under a half-inch group at 200 yards, which is a quarter MOA rifle. And if you take MOA all the way out to 1,000 yards, if it's a quarter MOA, that's 2.5 inches at 1,000 yards. And I've also shot out 2 barrels on that rifle. So I explained to them, if you shoot a lot and you get to where you are confident you can take that shot, you are ethically. Me taking an 800-yard shot in no wind with when I know my dope is more ethical than somebody that doesn't go out and shoot all the time taking a 200 to 300-yard shot. And they just think of it as distance. They don't think of it as, I mean, if you think of like high accurate people, they're shooting 2-inch groups at 1,000 yards consistently, or a 5-inch group at 1,000 yards consistently. I mean, they're punching paper and they're shooting very specialized rifle. But so I shoot a lot every year. And if my gun shoots under 3/4 of an inch group at 100 yards, that gun's wore out. And everybody was like, oh man, like it shoots under a 1 inch group at 100 yards. I said, yeah, but then it's going to shoot a 10-inch group at 1,000, a 5-inch group at 500. And if I'm taking a 500-yard shot and the gun can only keep a 5-inch group, then you go into wind drift, then you have spin drift, you have Coriolis effect, you have like all these temperature, altitude, humidity, everything into there. Now that 5-inch group is the best the gun can hold with nothing else involved. So then you start taking in temperature, altitude, humidity. When I shot that pronghorn at 1,062, I drove down there and I brought a bunch of shells with me. And me and my wife went out. We were shooting 1,500 yards, redoing all my dope and wind drift and temperature and altitude all the way out to 1,500 yards so that I knew my gun was dialed in. I was re-zeroing my rifle. Most people, when they go hunting somewhere, they'll shoot their gun at 100 yards and call it re-zeroed. I shot it out to 1,500 yards and re-zeroed my rifle every 100 yards beyond from there. So that's the kind of ethics you have to be able to take those long kind of shots.
Going to a recurve then, where you don't have quite as much technology and you're relying on your own capabilities, I guess practice is the important thing there, and experience.
Very much so.
How do you apply that?
Lots and lots of practice, and you can't just go out there and shoot 100 arrows. It's perfect practice makes perfect shooting. So if you're going out there and somebody doesn't instruct you and you shoot 100 arrows and you're not doing too well, practicing it'll help, but you have to have perfect practice to make perfect form, to make perfect shooting. And when I say perfect, I mean like if you're shooting like a paper plate at 30 yards with a recurve with no sights, that is really good shooting. And there's actually a thought process with archery hunters. If you can shoot every single arrow into a paper plate at a certain distance, take 40% off that distance, and that's your maximum shooting distance in the wild, because you're not tired, you're not dehydrated, you're not all these things, you don't have the buck fever going. So
adrenaline,
if you can place an arrow into a paper plate, which is about the kill zone of a deer, take 40% of that distance off, and that's your maximum hunting distance.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough numbers to deal with. That's for sure. So I guess based on that, when I switched over to recurve probably about 9 months ago, one thing that was nice I found is that I don't shoot a compound very much now, but all of the work that I'm doing with the recurve, it translates over really quick. Like I can pick up the compound and shoot that. It's like the form and the technique that's required. It's not exactly the same, but like the confidence in holding through the shot, because you get punished so badly with a recurve if you do anything wrong.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah. It makes shooting with a compound much more comfortable, I'd actually say. But yeah, I actually and I know I'm going to get poo-pooed for this a lot, but I just tried putting a very primitive like pin situation on my recurve, because I'm going over to South Africa and I want to take animals over there, but I really want to, and it comes down to ethics, right? Yep. I want to make sure that I can do a good job. And at the moment, the way I've got it set up with like my anchor point and all that kind of situation, when I'm shooting, it's like if I want to shoot something at 20 yards, I have to aim like 4 feet below it with my arrow tip. And trying to get precise with that, I just couldn't get that like lined up. But using just one pin, instantly I'm like, oh, okay, no, now it's so much easier to judge where I need to be shooting. Because I don't know, you're just like swimming in an ocean of nothingness when you're that far away, for me. At least that's what I found anyway. Yeah,
recurve, like traditional is, you can call it trad, traditional, recurve. It's super hard, and it like it's thousands of shots, and it's hundreds of days to get good. And being good, that's like 30 yards. I mean, a 40-yard shot with a traditional no sights. I mean, I wouldn't do that. There's every once in a while a flyer that I'll be like, hey, I can hit that 60-yard target, and I'll hit the 60-yard target, but I couldn't do that very often.
I'm learning new respect for some of the old stories, right, of Fred Bear and people like that who could take these crazy shots. Like from long distances on sometimes running animals. So ethics comes into questionability then, but it's also different times, right?
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk to you then about bear hunting, because I know that's something that's a really big obsession of yours.
Yeah, I do.
When was the first time that you hunted a bear? How old were you?
14, when I got my first bear.
Wow. And was that with a flintlock as well, or?
No, that was a 300 Winchester Magnum.
Tell me that story.
So we were out, there was this meadow that we would look up. Can't say where it's at. It's right next to Secret Hollow.
Okay.
And so you would look about 1.5 miles through this. You had to run out through this logging road, and then you had to run up through these trees and then go past this little lake and then up on this ravine. and then you could shoot it. So you would have to spot the bear at first light, and then you would have to try and get there before the bear would leave the meadow because they've been up feeding all night long. And so the faster you can get there, the better. And I was in really, really good shape back then. And so we seen this bear, and I just took off. And I bet you I ran almost the whole way there. Because when my hunting buddy and my brother came around the corner halfway there, they looked up, and I had already, I was in the process of shooting this bear. Because they looked up and they saw two bears there, and one was way bigger than the other one. And they were like, oh, it's a sow and a cub. And then I shoot the smaller one. And they were worried that I'd shot a sow, like the cub out of the sow. But it ended up turning out to be a 220-pound black bear. So
wow,
that was my first mission. Yeah, the cub was the 220-pound black bear.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a big bear.
The other bear was way bigger.
Yeah. How did you guess how big that thing was?
I never saw it. So this meadow kind of wraps around the side of a mountain. So if the wind is wrong, you would get out there, and you climbing up the hillside, because there was kind of cliffs and shale below it, they would either hear you coming or smell you coming. And thermals rise in the morning, so you can't come from the bottom in the morning.
Yeah.
And it depends on wind direction. But if you can get up and side hill to them, the thermals are carrying your scent uphill. And so as soon as I came around the corner and saw the first bear, I took the shot at it and got it. But they were looking at me like, oh, he just shot a cub. And they get there and they were like, well, this ain't the cub. This is a normal sized bear. And the other one was probably 350. A lot of people say 400-pound bear, and you have to get a really massive bear to get a 400-pound bear.
Yeah, it's easy to throw big numbers around, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so then was that the moment then you realized, like, this is something that laser focus that you have, that obsession fell on bears? Like you really focus a lot on pursuing bears. What is it you think that draws you to hunting them? It's
an animal that is a predator. It's a different type of, you're hunting an animal that can hunt you, in theory. It's not like a deer where you shoot it, you have no ideology in the back of your mind is going to come and attack you. Same with an elk. Right. Yeah. Bears, those things are different. I've been under 5 yards away on 3 distinct bears that I had to put down.
Wow.
Like 3 steps. And they were still alive, and they were still mobile. And it is an adrenaline rush, and it is dangerous, but it's a different, like deer hunting, you don't get that. Like, I wanted to push the limits. I wanted to get into, like, one day I would love to go to Africa and hunt a Cape buffalo. Like, that is my old time goal. But I just love, when I get really good at something, I push the limit. When I get comfortable with something, I'll push the limit. And it's always pushing that limit. So bears, they're the top of the food chain, in theory, even kind of above you if you didn't have all these firearms and like stuff like that. We're kind of equals.
Yeah.
And so bear hunting and cougar hunting is one of my big passions. So I've taken, I don't know how many bears. I've taken probably, and I mean, I could probably look back through all the records. I've probably taken 35 to 40 bears, me personally, maybe more.
Wow.
Up in Washington State, the 2 bear limit. So, and multiple years, I've taken 2 bears in 1 year.
And the thing that's remarkable to me about that as well, not only is that amazing, it's such a huge number, but the fact that you can't bait in Washington and you can't use hounds either.
No, they outlawed that in 1996. You can't bait and you can't use hounds. It's spot and stock only.
So that's unbelievable almost how many you've managed to take. And I guess that's something I really want to pick your brains about because I also feel a draw to hunting bears and have been very close to quite a few of them. I luckily haven't had any situations where I've had to take aggressive defensive action, so to speak. But yeah, they are fascinating creatures. And I think when you are that close, I've really, although often I'm trying to like make a shot with my bow, also just seeing the way that they're thinking, and they're just such fascinating animals, right? They just like bumble around, they get distracted by stuff. In my mind, they're kind of like teenagers. I feel like they just have
Mhm.
this kind of strange persona, but I'm sure each of them has a different personality. Tell me more about the moments when you had to take action against them. Was that, I mean, was that with a pistol, or had you
Um,
hunted them already and then they charged you?
Pistol, shotgun, and rifle.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, different situations.
Yes. So I guess my first one when I was younger, one of my good friends, she shot a bear, and I think she hit a little high, broke his spine, and so he was going down this really nasty draw. So I went and I got underneath the bear because we had to drag it back up that draw. I mean, that steep. And when we were dragging it out, we literally had to reach up above us, hold on to a tree branch, and then all three of us pull the bear up to us and then brace it. So it was a really steep area. And we kept on, she was, I would say, maybe 15, 16. And so we were trying to get her to put the finishing shot on this bear because it was her bear. And finally, we just got way too far down. And so my buddy told me, get below that bear, don't let it go by you. And I had a little 357 Magnum, a Ruger SP 101, and I got below it. And I said, all right, if that bear gets to me, I'm going to put a round in it. And so she ended up getting a position that she shot it. It flopped once and landed on my legs. I ended up grabbing the bear.
Wow.
That was my first one. My second encounter was with my brother Chris, and he ended up shooting one, and it went down in this nasty draw. And I went down in there, and I had a blood trail going down the middle of the draw. So I cut uphill about 30 yards and just ran as fast as I could about 100 yards, and I cut down in, and there was no blood trail. So I knew that bear was between me and up the hill. So I just started working my way up, and there was this big brushy draw, and I had a little bolt action 308. And I went to go around it, and I heard breathing to my left, and I looked, and the bear was looking directly at me at about probably the width of a vehicle. And I saw its ears go back and its head go down, and I spun at the hip and touched off, and I ended up taking the bear right in the chest and put it down. But there's a couple stories like
Wow.
that.
Your adrenaline must have been pumping after that.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
exciting.
You have to watch out making threats about Cape Buffalo, because I could probably figure out how to make that happen someday.
I got.
You might be regretting that choice.
Oh, I would love to do that.
A place I was hunting in a while ago, they did have an opportunity to hunt a female buffalo rather than a bull, and
Mhm.
I was excited about that prospect. I didn't end up doing it in the end, but after doing a little bit more research, I sent a message to one of my mentors over there who has hunted all like the big 5 most dangerous animals with a bow. He's actually been on the podcast. His name's Dr. Adrian de Villiers. His
Okay.
nickname is Dr. Death, which is rather ominous. But he left this message to me, which is like, oh yeah, no, just the thing that you should know is that the female buffalo are the most dangerous. They'll just charge at you for nothing.
Well, yeah, they probably have to protect their young. They're not like a Dega boy that's just like out there on his own.
Right, yeah. So I think my wife wasn't too happy with that piece of information. I'm not going to blame her. I definitely made the choice myself as well. But so you said something there about the body language of the bear, like its ears went back and it dropped its head, and that was kind of a sign to you. I'm curious, and I was wondering about asking you about bear body language. Could you talk through some of that stuff? Because I'm sure it's helpful to understand what's going on, understanding what they're doing, and reading what the situation's like if you're close to one of these things.
So bears normally are up. They can even stand up. They can be upright. Their ears going back. I don't know if that's some sort of a sign of. It's kind of like humans when their adrenaline rushes up, that we get a surge of adrenaline or something like that. But their head lowering, I think it's to protect their vitals, because their vitals are on the side of their neck, and it is their stomach that they don't want it open. Maybe they're lowering their head to protect that. But that if you see a bear and it's like looking at you, even if it stands up, I don't think it's just trying to catch your wind or get a better view of you. But if it heads go down and the ears go back and it kind of crunches down, it's ready to charge. Or if they start woofing at you and start bluff charging, they will do possible. If you're far enough away, they'll do a bluff charge, which means they'll charge. And then if you don't turn around and run, they'll stop. But
Yes.
yeah, if their ears go back and their head goes down and they start moving towards you, then you have to worry.
Yeah. I was going to say, there's also a thing that I've seen them do before where they like yap, they like pop their jaw, like they do this weird thing where they're not necessarily making eye contact with you, but they're doing that. I don't know if you have any idea what that means. I don't know.
I haven't heard any black bears popping their jaw. That might be a grizzly bear thing or something out of Washington State that does that.
It was a black bear right by my house that's doing that.
Oh, wow. No, I've never heard that. I've taken probably another 30 people out to their bears or their animals. I don't even remember. I can't count, but I've been in a lot of hunting situations with a lot of people. I love taking them out.
I bet. What's the kind of idea behind bears and their varying flavor? You've shot probably more bears than most people and eaten more bears than most people. What do you think about that? Is it true?
It's what they eat, where they live, maybe a little bit of their genetic background. I'm not too sure on that, but mostly what they eat and how you take care of the animal. So the bears that we harvest, I don't hunt them in the lowlands where they're eating, like, let's just say something called skunk cabbage, or eating like really, really like grasses or something like that. I hunt them when they get up in the berries, and it makes their meat very sugar-free, flavorful. At our home church, we end up, I was feeding elk and deer and bear, and all the people, I didn't tell them which ones were which, and all the people take a second helping of bear. Bear is just... it's really fatty, but you can actually cut the fat off of it. So if you do want a lot of fat in the bear meat, because there's wild game, they keep their fat on the outside of their muscles for warmth, where all of our farm-raised animals, they keep the fat inside. It's called marbling. They keep it inside the muscles. And so you can cut all the fat off and have very, very lean meat. And moose is actually one of the leanest. It's even less than chicken and turkey. So what they eat has a lot to do, I'd say more to do with what they taste like than actually anything else.
Even more so than like age, or if it's like a big old boar, have you ever found that affects the flavor?
Yes. Yeah. When you're talking about pigs, I mean, they do in the rut, animals will get ruddy. And so the rut does affect it, but that's not actual what they probably taste like most of the year. During the rut, yeah, they get swollen glands and their neck starts swelling up, and they get all like they just start stinking, and they don't eat much. And so I think that what they don't eat actually affects the flavor, because they're really in a stressful situation and they're working out and they got a lot of lactic acid in their muscles and all that kind of stuff. So that does affect it. But for an animal, let's just say you're not hunting them in the rut, that what they eat has a lot to do with it, and how you harvest the animal, whether you leave it in the back of your truck, drive around showing all your buddies for the next 6 hours, that can affect a really good animal. The butcher butchers it, or if you butcher your own animal, whether you hang it in warm weather, what you really want to do is put the animal down and harvest it as quick as possible. If you can, you cool the meat down as quick as possible, whether you take the hide off and hang it, or if you get it in a cooler, or if you bring coolers with ice in the bottom of it, and then get it home, and then you want to keep it dry. You want to keep it in a sterile type situation. You don't want to drag it through a river or drag it through the mud. Later on, you're going to have to clean all that stuff off, which you're not going to clean it off with water and soap. You got to pretty much cut the pieces off, which means you're going to be wasting meat. Has a lot to do with what they eat and how you clean it, not actually, I think, how the animal is.
Okay, interesting. I kind of had my suspicions about the theory about like, oh, don't touch the big old males or whatever, like I think.
They do get old. They do get tough. But me, I'm not a horn hunter. You ever try to eat horn or cook up a piece of horn? It's pretty hard on the teeth. It's crunchy. So I don't hunt for horns. I mean, I've been putting in Washington State for 29 years and I haven't drawn a tag because I want something really good. Other than that, I just go out and shoot the first animal, harvest the first animal that I see, and I bring it home for meat. That's
Get
what
meat
you
in
eat.
the freezer.
Yeah, that's the most important
Okay,
thing.
so you've got a lot of experience and you've helped a lot of people out finding bears. Are you willing to share a few tips? I'd love to pick your brains about it because it's something which I got lucky looking for deer, found a black bear, and it was the best tasting meat I've ever had in my life. And I every year I'm like, oh, this year I'm going to try and find a bear, but I don't know what I'm doing clearly. So,
Okay, so one main tip, you got to find the feed.
okay.
So the feed where I hunt is mostly berries. So
Yeah.
berries also, if you think, where are the berries? Well, they follow elevation in heat. So let's just say up on a mountaintop that's covered in snow, there's not going to be any berries. But way down in the bottom, you'll have berries starting to come on. And that's blueberries, that's elderberries, that is salmon berries, that's your black caps. That's all the food source of the bears.
Mm-hmm.
So what you'll do is maybe a week before season or a day before season, drive up, find the berry elevation, go up and find where the berries are the ripest, almost to where they're falling off of the branches. Find your elevation. Then what you do is you look for clear cuts on Onyx or on Google Maps that are at that elevation. Because if you're hunting a clear cut and there's no berries there, but 1,000 feet below you, the berries are all there. That's where the bears are going to be. So you got to hunt the bears where they're going to be, where the food source is at the time of year. So sometimes in Western Washington, where my area got my first bear, the berries don't even get right till September. We don't even really hunt that area. So it opens up August 1st, August 15th. Depends on where you're at in the state and what year you are. So we won't even hunt them. We'll just do something else. And once the berries hit that elevation of where the clear cut's at, because a lot of times lower elevation, you're going to be hunting in brush, and they'll hear you or smell you coming from a mile away. So what you want to do is you want to find the time of the year that the berries are at that elevation that you can see. Bear hunting, I've got it down to a science. I mean, I've taken a lot of bears. My kids have taken a lot of bears. But you have to get in an area you can see a long ways when the berries are ripe at that elevation, and you'll start harvesting bears.
Okay, that's great to know. I was curious. I mean, I guess knew that with the berries thing where I am as well, but I guess I assumed that they shifted to different kind of food sources. Like later on, have you ever tried harvesting bears like later on in the year? I guess if you're successful and you get them during berry season, you don't have the need to. But I've had a few times.
Have tags that long.
Well, that sounds like a nice problem to have.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So
deer season, elk season, I'm usually concentrated on them. And if I see a bear, if I still have a tag, I'll shoot one. But I concentrate on bear with bear season, and then I'll jump straight to deer, and then I'll jump straight to elk. Because deer and elk season is very, very short. And that's about the time that my business is also running and I'm working. So I have a very limited time off. So I haven't actually taken a bear in like 2 years, 3 years, because my wife and daughter have been doing that. Wife hasn't gotten a bear yet, but I take them out hunting.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess ultimately it's fine as long as it makes its way to the freezer. Then it doesn't really matter who pulls the trigger.
Yep.
Have you ever had any experience calling bears in at all?
You know what? I've done a lot of predator calling. I was a big coyote hunter and cougar hunter. Honestly, I have never called a bear in. Here's one tip I will tell the listeners, and it'll be worth its weight in gold. So when you're going out to hunt, if you have kids or people who haven't hunted very much, have them shoot at pictures of animals. And what I mean by is don't have them shoot at a target. And this comes into me being able to be with hunters and have them take a lot of animals. And like my kids, I have a son and a daughter, and they both took bears at 10 years old. And then my daughter took another bear at 13, took her first elk at 15. My son took his second bear at 13. And they're like, what is it? 8 for 10 on animals when they shoot at them, because I don't really let them shoot at targets. Animals do not have a target painted on their body. If you tell a kid to shoot behind the shoulder, well, and the guts is behind the shoulder is the shoulder, the spine's the shoulder. So what I would tell them, and this is one of the things that we didn't talk about, I want to get into, go down to your local library, print off pictures of the animal you're going to harvest. Put those pictures up and get a super accurate 22. I have a CZ target rifle that I put the same scope as my hunting scope on my 2 kids' and my wife's rifle. I'll put that same scope on the CZ 22 target rifle, and I'll use match ammo. And we'll put like 15 targets out at like 20 or 30 yards, whatever the distance is that you need it to be the size of the animal. They're going to shoot at like 200 or 300. And then what you do is you have competitions. And you say, all right, let's just say you have 2 kids. All right, whoever does the best shot for 15 targets gets to pick whatever candy bar they want tonight. And you turn it into a competition. And what they do is you get it broadside, you get it quartering away, you get it quartering to, you get it facing directly towards you, you have it facing uphill broadside, downhill broadside, and what you do is you get that mental picture of exactly where to place that bullet. And if they're shooting with a super accurate 22, and they're on like a bench with a bipod, and you can make their brain see the exact picture of where they want to place the bullet. Because if the bears or the animal is quartering into you and you shoot it behind the shoulder, it's going to be a gut shot. If it's facing quartering away and you shoot it behind the shoulder, it's going to be right down the rib cage, maybe break the artery in the shoulder, and it's going to come out the chest. And so animals, a lot of the times, like 99% of the time, are not perfectly broadside when you shoot at them. So if you copy off pictures and you have the kids or the family members, I do this. I'm an amazing shot, and I still shoot at pictures. And that sends a mental picture through your brain exactly where you want that bullet to be.
That's a top tip right there. I'm gonna try that. I actually, not exactly the same, but it's before heading over to South Africa, for the first time ever, I found like the cheapest 3D target that I could. It's like a javelina, because warthogs are pretty small, and I just wanted to get that visual in my mind of like thinking of it as an actual shape and how much to drop, like shoot above and below it and all that kind of stuff. Because I think you're right. It's important to get a actual view. You're not shooting at a cross or a dot. You're shooting at a real thing, and you need to be able to visualize where you have to aim to put that thing in the right spot. So yeah, that's a top tip. I'm going to do that. If you're enjoying the podcast, then please make sure you remember to give us a subscribe or a follow, whatever platform you are listening on. And if you get a chance, a 5-star review is always a fantastic way to push us up in the algorithms, so people who enjoy wild kind of content, like the stuff we produce, will find us quicker. That way I can get hold of more amazing guests like Ian today. Right, back to the podcast.
I had to jump completely out of it.
Okay, I lost you there for a second. Where were we? So we were talking about bear hunting. So something I wanted to ask you, 2 things. One is, you said that they have a lot of fat on their external part of their body.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use that fat to make bear grease with? Yeah.
Yeah, actually at the gatherings, I've traded bear grease for many things. I mean, I use it for cooking. I use it for baking. I mean, it's some really good stuff. Bear lard. It's one of the most coveted any types of fats out there.
Ah, that's awesome. Because it was the first animal that I took, first of all, I didn't know anything about bear grease, but there also wasn't very much fat on the thing. I think maybe just in California where I was, it's just like they don't need to fatten up for winter so much. Maybe that's speculation.
You got like a 2-month winter.
That's something. Yeah, exactly. So that's something that I look forward to trying at some point. Then the other question I was going to ask is what do you like to cook? How do you like to cook the bear meat?
So I just put it in a pan and cook it with just salt and pepper and a little bit of garlic. I don't really do a lot of these marinades, and because that's getting away from the actual flavor of the animal. And that's
Yeah.
with beef. It's actually they spend a lot of money to make it tasteless so that they can put any types of seasonings in it. I want the flavor.
Mm.
And bear meat's actually really, really good. It's high in fat, high in protein, super low in cholesterol. So let's just say I harvest a bear and I have 2 and 3 year old elk and deer. And what I'll do is I'll take all that old deer and old elk that might not be as fresh as my freshest stuff, and I'll put it with that bear and put all the fat with it, and I'll go down and make pepperoni and sausage out of it. So you use your old elk and deer, and you throw the bear and the bear fat in there, and it makes really good hunting sausage and pepperoni and summer sausage.
That's great to know. I'm going to try that for sure.
Yep.
I've definitely got some old meat kicking around that I can use for that. Okay,
Yeah.
That's a great plan.
So you don't throw it away or not use it. It's a great way to make sausage pepperoni and use it, and yeah.
Nice.
But bear
Okay.
meat, yeah, I just eat it normal. Like it's the flavor is really good. It just doesn't have that gamey taste that people talk about. I don't think I've ever really had a real gamey animal, but I'm not out there horn hunting where the animal could be in the rut and could possibly be gamey. And then I don't drive it around for the next 6 hours and show all my buddies. Maybe that's where they're getting the gaminess from. They're shooting it in the rut and they're shooting a really old animal because they're wanting the horns and they're driving it around for 6 or 7 hours. Maybe that's the gaminess that's getting put into them.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about with bear hunting, or anything that you feel like I should have asked you about it that you want to share?
So, bears are pretty cool. Do you know have you heard anything about their gestation?
No.
A lot of people don't know this. Bears actually breed in June and July.
Oh, okay.
And they called what's called delayed implantation. So she'll carry around the fertilized egg for months and it will not attach to the uterine wall. And then once she gets enough fat reserves, if she gets enough fat reserves, then it will implant itself in the uterine wall and then she'll have the cubs. So months she's carrying around a fertilized egg, and she will only become pregnant if her body is healthy enough for it. And she'll have 1 to 4 cubs in February, and they're born hairless and like really, really small. And then they'll grow with super fatty milk while she's still in the den and lethargic. And she can have 1 to 4 babies, and usually it's about 2.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
She'll actually carry around a fertilized egg.
How interesting. And just
And
time it.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, she doesn't, like most animals think the animals breed in the fall so that they have their babies in the spring. Well, bears breed in June and July.
So do the bears where you are, black bears, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Do they hibernate up there?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So then they've already, am I right in understanding that they've given birth, they give birth when they're like in the den? Yep. That's what you said, right? So
yeah, like 2 months before they come out of the den.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So not only is the sow trying to starve for 4 or 5 months, but she's also raising little babies while she's in hibernation. And it just fascinates me that, like, have you ever not ate and drank anything for 4 months and sleep all through that time and then try and raise 1 to 4 kids? It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, it is. That is absolutely bonkers, isn't it? I mean, I struggle to not eat for a day or 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they definitely got something over us, that's for sure. I wanted to ask you about one thing, skills gatherings. And I feel like you do that a lot. You're a big part of going to skills gatherings and also and this might not be right, but the Pacific Northwest Games. You've been part of that for a while, right? And your dad's told me that you actually won that a couple of times. Is that right?
Yeah. The survival gatherings, you can Google it. There's one at least every week around the United States, some in Canada. And they're traditional survival classes you can take, anything from shearing sheep, making wool or felt, to taking a deer hide and making buckskins, to taking and learning like 2 sticks, rub them together, make a fire, bow drill, hand drill, There's just anything you can think of. There's leather working. There's even where you take ore from the ground, you turn it into a piece of steel. You could take clay out of the river and turn it into a clay pot. Anything and everything from walking around in the woods and telling you what's edible and what's poisonous. Anything you can think of that's traditional. One of my can't remember exactly, maybe it was Jim Reeves said it's these skills that we teach, it's all arts and crafts until you put an actual how did you word it? It's all arts and crafts until we actually tell the meaning behind it.
Yes.
So if you're teaching like making felt, unless you actually explain like the theory behind it and where it came from and the ancestral skills and you actually put meaning into it, it's just arts and crafts.
Mm-hmm.
And so we teach it at that way. Like I teach, sometimes I do fire making where I'll take a hand drill and a bow drill. I teach a lot of weaving, weaving gill nets and regular nets, and then I'll teach butchering animals. I'll teach like there's a lot of things I can teach, but mostly I just teach gill net making and net making, trapping, fire making. But it's really cool. Anything you want, and it's a super cool environment you can bring your kids to. It's a really, really neat place to go to. And for $250 to $400, some of them are $500. It's a week long, like just as much instruction you can take in. It's really, really cool. So I would tell people, look up the traditional survival gatherings around the United States, and it'll pop up a website. I can't remember the exact website, but it's super easy to get to. And then you can just see what time of the month and where they're at, and they'll have the information. And then you just go there, and they'll have the phone number of the person to contact or the email, and you can just get onto them. And I love going to them. Been going to them for a long time.
Great. Is that something that you started doing with your dad? Because I think yeah. Okay. Were you young when you started going to these gatherings?
So my earliest childhood memories of going to kind of gatherings were mountain man rendezvous. And I remember wearing the buckskins and going to mountain man rendezvous and shooting flintlocks and stuff like that. But those kind of like just mountain man rendezvous, and they were just kind of shooting muzzleloaders and throwing tomahawks and not really, I wouldn't say teaching the broadest skills that these gatherings, rabbit stick, you got fire to fire, you got winter count, you got between the rivers, you got fall camp, you got, Saskatoon Circle. There's just so many that you can go to. White Rock. There's a ton of them that you can go to. And
okay,
I'll correlate that into the Pacific Northwest Survival Challenge. So I wasn't there the first year. So my dad was they call them instructors or judges, but they just show you how it's done, and then you take it from there. And so my dad was like, "Hey, you should do this." And I said, "Well, you being the judge," he goes, "Yeah, but we're not really judging. We show you how to do something, and then you compete on how to do it. It's not really we judge you on what's the best." So I was like, "Okay, but if I do this, I'm not going to talk to you for the next 2 months." And I didn't. I was like, "Yep, not going to talk to you because I don't want." Like they give hints out on what they're going to do. And I don't even know if all the instructors know all of what's going to go on there. But so I was like, all right. So me and my wife did it the first time. She's like 120 pounds soaking wet, tiny little female. And she's like, "I've never competed." I said, "Yeah, we'll I've done this kind of stuff my whole life. And so I think we'll do it pretty good." So we went there and competed, and we rocked it. We like one of the challenges was like they would put a tattoo of a cut on the leg. You had to put a tourniquet on. You had to stop the blood flow. You had to take a piece of duct tape. You had to do 5 sutures and tie it down. You couldn't move on to the next one until the judges said that you did it good enough. And then you had to cut a Stokes litter or a travois, and you drag a person like 100 yards through kind of an obstacle course. And like some of them are making a bundle bow and shooting arrows that you make, and it's all, you get an hour to do it, and then you got to shoot it like moving targets or stationary targets, or you have a competition who can shoot the balloon first, or like you had this moving target you had one arrow to shoot at, and my arrow blew through the target and stuck into a building on the other side about 15-20 yards away because my bow was pretty powerful. And then like there's just all sorts of weird stuff. You had to make a raft and float a river and gather flags. You had to build a shelter, and then they would spray it with water, and you had to wear this little suit on. And so whatever water got through the shelter you built, then they could weigh it and then see how much water come through your shelter. And just so many cool. You had to like build a fire. You had to boil water, and the water that came off in steam, you had to condense and put into a beaker, and then they would like see how clear it was and how much you got, and then you had to build a charcoal water purification system and then pour water through it and try and purify the water, and then they would measure the clarity of it. And so it's kind of like it's really cool to do. And then they had one year where you had to search and evade. They would search for you, and you had to put a ghillie suit on and go and hide. So I hide in sticker bushes, me and my nephew. So me and my wife won it the first year. We won it by, I think, the fourth competition we had. All we had to do was just finish the competition. So we ended up winning it the first year. And then my wife was like, I'm on top. I don't need to do it again. And so I went ahead and tried to find another partner. Finally, my 18-year-old nephew was like, yeah, I'll do it with you. So me and him competed, and then we made atlatls and threw atlatls, and we won it again the second year. So I competed twice between about 50 teams and about 100 people, and I've taken first place twice. And so when I was doing really good in the competition, I told the people, I said, if I win this year, I'm not going to do it again. I said, I don't think it would be fair for me to keep competing and to degrade your guys' ability to get competitors to come in here if I'm winning it every year. So I told them, if I win, I'm not doing it anymore. I said I would like to come on as a judge or somebody in the background to help out, or an instructor or something like that. So yeah, they went ahead and took me on as an instructor now.
Nice. So you're going to be doing that this coming year now.
Yep.
So what are you going to be instructing? Do you know?
You don't know. You don't know it until. Yeah, and I can't say anything about it. I can't even tell my wife. I mean, you get told what you're going to be. We get together. I don't know even how they do it, because I've always been just a competitor. So now that I'm a judge, I've been talking to the people that run it, and they're going to say, yeah, okay, you're going to be doing this, so bring some stuff and then teach the skill, and then you'll be one of the instructors.
Nice. Ian, I think that just about hits us at time for this conversation, but thank you so much for sharing all your stories and knowledge and enthusiasm today. It's been amazing talking to you. I'm so glad we managed to figure out our cumulative technical hiccups and get this going on. Is there anywhere, I mean, you're just talking about the PNW survival games, I think, is that the right name for it?
Yeah, Pacific Northwest Survival Challenge.
Survival Challenge.
Games.
Okay. Yep. So how do people check that out? I guess they just search that online, or do they have a website, or they have social media?
Yeah, they have a social media, Pacific Northwest Survival Games or Survival Challenge.
Okay.
And they're on, I think, Instagram and Facebook. You can they're down in Mola, just south.
You just broke up. Sorry, I lost you.
It was my dad calling me.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can look them up on Instagram and Facebook. I've got an Instagram and Facebook. It's Outdoorian Survival, and so it's Outdoorian. It's kind of like one word, Outdoorian.
It's a great name.
Survival. Yeah. But yeah, and also just look up the Survival Gathering, look up the Pacific Northwest Survival Games, and just get out there and start just doing these type of things, doing the survival things. I mean, knowledge is amazing. And the more you learn, the better you'll be, because nobody ever rises to the occasion. They sink to their level of training. And I've learned that over so many years of being in very stressful and, I mean, EMT and wildland situations that nobody rises to the occasion. You'll sink to your level of training without even realizing it.
Yeah.
So if you get out and start doing your skills and start practicing them and do them in competitions, because the difference between doing it when it's nice out than doing it in like a stressful situation. And it's actually, you have to go out into bad weather and try, because anybody can light a fire with a lighter inside their home with a piece of paper. Try doing it in the rain and not being able to find dry material. It complicates it quite a bit unless you've done it. And then if you have the confidence that you can do it, you're going to do way better in a stressful real life situation, rather than, oh, well, I can do it when I get there. So, and one thing I do want to ask you, if you would like to come up and do some bear hunting, come on up. I'll take you out.
Oh, Ian, that is music to my ears. I would absolutely love to, man. Yeah. Well, let's make a plan. I think that'll be that'll be a great thing. We can chat about seasons and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would absolutely love to. Thanks for the offer, dude.
Yeah. There's a 1,700-yard shooting range.
Also, I can meet. Okay, I'll bring my rifle, which I don't think will be able to do too well. Let alone I don't have the skills, or maybe you can teach me a thing or two with that as well.
Yeah.
So
that's what I can do. We have a good shooting range.
Thanks again for your time, Ian.
All right, Robin.
Right. That's another episode in the bag. Thank you, Ian, for being a fantastic guest and sharing all your skills and stories today. I am definitely going to take you up on that invitation to head up and chase some bear later on. I'm very excited about that prospect. So I'm going to head up and be the biggest sponge I can be and soak up as much of your wisdom as possible. Definitely head to the show notes and check out his Instagram, Outdoorian, and also the other links. They're down in the show notes. Give them a look and give him a follow. I'm just going to give a little update for a second. We're still in South Africa, but we're now heading north. We're going to head to Johannesburg. We're going to have some fun adventures. I'm going to be interviewing a few different people. There's another person from the fly fishing world, or actually I'm going to head to one of the top fly fishing shops in Johannesburg. I'm also going to stay at an amazing lodge. A friend has very kindly invited me to stay with him for a while, so we're going to get up to all kinds of mischief. There's another couple of guests he's recommended I get in touch with too, so I'm going to have to try and balance talking to people and also getting out there and trying to put this recurve bow in the background to good use. But that's quite enough waffling from me for now. Thank you everyone for listening and supporting the podcast. It means a lot. Thanks for listening, and until next time.
Welcome to the Wild Dispatch.